Hi, I'm David Ellis, the editor of The Reveller here at the Evening Standard. After a year of staying in, do we really have an appetite for going out? Those who run London's nightclubs, pubs, bars, comedy venues, and festivals are really hoping so. But large scale gatherings have languished at the back of the queue over the past 15 months. Adversity, of course, sparks creativity, but is that enough to save our city's lauded nightlife? Our panelists will discuss how. I'm joined by Amy LeMay, the night czar, writer and DJ, and Sarah Miller, the director of operations at Be At One. Thank you both so much for joining me. I'm really sort of glad and happy to be talking to you about this. I want to keep this really upbeat and talk about how great our city's nightlife is, but I thought maybe we could start by just sort of discussing a little bit about how you found the past year or so. Amy, maybe I could start with you. How do you think this year's been for the nightlife sector? And maybe you could sum up in a sentence how you think the government's responded to it.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you, David, for inviting me to be a part of this conversation. And it's great to chat with Sarah as well. I mean, personally, for me, it was a huge shock because I've been so closely involved in the capital's nightlife for over 25 years. It was absolutely devastating to see how this crisis unfolded. It's affected every area of our lives and continues to. But I think, from the beginning, I knew it's absolutely necessary to work so closely with venue owners, workers, and local authorities, business leaders, to champion and advocate for the industry and to help deliver some programs that would help them make it through. And from the beginning, we didn't know how long this would last. Nightclubs, as we speak, are still closed. They were the first to close. They'll be the last to reopen. And in terms of the government support, I mean, it's only right, let's face it, that the nighttime businesses should have closed their doors. They did. That helped to stop the spread of the virus. However, before the pandemic, venues were struggling. They were really suffering from a rise in commercial rents, threats from development, rise in business rates. And so, we were really lobbying the government, the mayor and I, for furlough and business rate support and to end the curfew. And we've seen some success with that. There were a lot of concerns about the way restrictions changed. It seemed like, not just week by week, but sometimes day by day. And that made it put a lot of pressure on venues. So we were doing all we could to help with our Culture at Risk Business Support Fund, £2.3 million for the most at-risk cultural nighttime businesses, as well as our Pay It Forward London scheme and upping our Culture at Risk office to help, to put it in perspective. Over the previous 3 years, our Culture at Risk office had helped about 150 venues. In the past 14 months, they've helped almost 800. So it goes to show that overnight, this pandemic has put a lot of our city's cultural and nighttime venues at risk.
Yeah, that's an astonishing figure, really. Sarah, obviously with Be At One, it's such a well-known, recognisable brand, and there are so many across the capital. How have you found it, just specifically with the bar, I suppose, or bar group?
So I'd probably echo what a lot of what Amy said there, but I think fair to say, when it actually happened, we really didn't think that it was going to happen. We'd actually just opened a new site, a new Be At One in Islington. And the night that we had to go into lockdown was the first day that we traded. So as much as there was a lot in the news about what was happening, it all felt quite unreal to the point that, we were confident to open our site and thought that maybe some things would change, but not to the degree that they did change. And our focus when we did go into lockdown was very much primarily around looking after our team and making sure that they remained in contact with each other, that we kept them engaged in our business, but also looking after their well-being. I think for a group of individuals that love this industry as much as we do in Be At One, and the high energy that you get from the experience that we give, it was hard to all of a sudden be working from your spare bedroom or not going out and interacting with people. So I think that was, that has been tough. And certainly the constant changes of the restrictions and regulations, that was hard as a business to to make sure that you're complying with that all of the time. I think it tested our agility, our resilience, and our communication with our teams.
It's really interesting you say that, because there is such an element of no one thought the Titanic would sink. It was almost like it was too big to ever shut down this sector, and then of course it did happen. Then the other thing that you said there that sort of really struck a chord is the hospitality sector, especially late night hospitality sector, is so full of such vivacious, vivid, larger than life characters that actually to sort of have that taken away from them seems really difficult. And just talking to people that I know out there, you sort of think, yes, you've had a really tough year, but there is an excitement about coming back too. And Amy, there you were mentioning about the scene already having a lot of issues and struggling beforehand. Do you think COVID now will have finally killed off London's nightlife scene, or do you think actually, because there's such an appetite for people going out, there is going to be this roaring 20s that people have been speaking about?
Look, it's clear that the pandemic has had this profound impact. I think the nightlife sector and those working in it, like Sarah said, are so resilient. And the industry always comes up with new and exciting ways to engage audiences and customers. I mean, I don't know about you, but there were so many fantastic online events during lockdown that I attended. It was brilliant. And it was incredibly inventive. I mean, Fabric produced London Unlocked, a series of live DJ streams. And while I think we're all really craving to get back to that in-person nightlife, I still think that, this is one of the lessons that we can learn, is that there will be a demand for online content like that in the future. However, our nightlife, our in-person nightlife, is the envy of the world, and it's a huge driver for our economy. And I have absolutely no doubt that it's going to be at the center of our economic and our social recovery. It's important to remember that when London thrives, the whole country thrives. So supporting our city's nightlife to survive the coming months and plan for the future will be absolutely vital, not just for our city, but for the UK and around the world. And let's face it as well, the vaccine is really our light at the end of the tunnel. That is the thing that's going to help us get back to doing the things that we love most. We've seen some encouraging test events come out. We're waiting for the full findings from that. So I think that we don't quite know what the future looks like right now, but for this sector that's incredibly resilient, I know that they will bounce back given half the chance. They want to trade their way out of this mess, quite frankly. Everybody just wants to get back to work.
Yeah, there definitely seems like there's an appetite out there among sort of bar owners, club owners, to just remind you why you love them in the first place, and to draw people back in. It's interesting though that you mentioned about the online events, because there's some amazing things, DJ sets, as you said. There was, cocktail making classes went online, and people started to get more into all of that. Sarah, do you think there is a future for online events, and do you think they'll run alongside what's out there, or do you think maybe it was just a weird 12 months, 15 months, and actually all of that's going to slowly be left behind?
Well, I think it was definitely a weird 12 months. But I think there is an opportunity for them to run alongside. And if you think, especially in the late night sector, it is habitual to have a drink at home when you're getting ready, to be with your friends. That's part of the night out. Everyone's excited about getting dressed up and going out for the night. And actually, some of the stuff that's been online, especially the cocktail masterclasses, they'll form a part of that. So I think it's important that we continue to understand what our guests want, and that we react to that, and through innovation we constantly revise what we do. That's what we do in our industry. We're constantly reacting to changes in even the demographics change. Every age group wants something different, and we do definitely, as Amy says, we want to trade through that. We're excited to be a part of something that does constantly evolve, but I think it'll have to work hand in hand. And what we have gained from the last 12 months is a strong digital engagement with our guests. So actually that's going to help when we get to hopefully no restrictions fairly soon. That's helping because we have managed to keep those guests engaged through that period of time, whether it's with the brand, with the team, with the product. So yeah, I think in conjunction it's a win.
I think it's the engagement that you talk about was kind of fascinating because on the Reveller website, we ran a big piece last week where we spoke to London bartenders about what they thought would be drinking this summer. And one thing that they said basically echoes your sentiment there, where guests are coming back and they know way more now because they've had time to get into their gins or their champagnes or their cocktails. And so now bartenders they're having to sort of like deal with these requests, work around it, try and find ways to offer new things. And that idea of it being a challenge was seemed to be a point of real enthusiasm for these bartenders. And obviously there were so many great events, as we've just said. Amy, I'm curious though, what do you think people missed the most over the last year? And what do you think they're looking forward to being reminded of as we head back out?
Yeah, what a good question. I mean, from my own personal experience, I just miss being out with my friends. I miss being out with my friends. I miss, grabbing a pizza, grabbing a couple of drinks, going to see a live gig, and also the spontaneity. I think that that's part of the joy of being in London and going out is like walking past some cool little place and going, yeah, shall we pop in there and see what that's like? Or, oh, I always meant to go in that pub. Shall we go and, have a quick nightcap? That kind of thing that I guess because of all of the restrictions, it's been so difficult. So I think that combination of live music, of theater, of seeing performances, as well as that spontaneity and going out to eat. I mean, as soon as indoor dining was reopened, I was right out there at my favorite restaurant, and I have been basically eating my way around every London neighborhood that I possibly can. I've really missed it so much. I think also people are fed up of doing their own dishes a little bit too.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right, and that spontaneity is it kind of London thrives on that. I've definitely found that lately. I mean, the curfew, which was the dreaded curfew, thank goodness that's gone because I've had a few late nights lately that I wasn't expecting. But it's because you meet a new bunch of people, or then you head into somewhere else, and you suddenly go, oh yeah, this is why I live here. This is why I love it. But I have had friends tell me that they don't have the same appetite for staying up late anymore. That they've got so used to sort of just going to bed at 10 o'clock because there was nothing else to do. Sarah, do you feel that, or do you feel that there is still people do want to get out, they do want the late nights? Do you think London will still stay open till the wee small hours as we head forward?
Look, I don't think that the pandemic will have killed off the late night in London. I don't think we would allow that to happen. But we've been doing some research in preparation for the 21st of June. And interestingly, the survey, we actually did it the weekend just gone. And 78% of people that were surveyed said, we are excited about getting back into late night venues, bars and clubs. And of those people, 74% of them, what they missed was dancing and singing. So being able to sing along with those tracks, but also to get up out of your seat, to get dancing, to, all of those things that we naturally miss. I think the overall socialising piece, we've satisfied a bit of that with opening during restrictions, but that's the next phase. And that was quite interesting to us that, it's the fundamental core of what we offer in late night, and that's what people are missing. And from what we can see, they're ready to come back out.
Great. I mean, that's really heartening and reassuring that everyone hasn't just suddenly gone a million years old over lockdown. I'm sure that's something you must feel too, Sarah, that, you've got the week notice, but do you feel like you need a bit more time, or could you just speak on also for you as a bar group, how important it is that June 21st is the date that you are allowed to fling open the doors properly, as it were?
Yeah, I think we've had the date in our heads for such a long time now. It will be hard if that doesn't happen. It'll be hard for everybody involved, I think, but it will be financially hard, obviously, because there's no way we can trade at our full capacity with the current restrictions. The timing is really difficult, and all you can do is plan for as many eventualities as possible. So we hope that on the 21st, the restrictions will be lifted, and we have a plan B in place should that not happen, or should they change. We will have 1 week to react to it, and that's very, very difficult, especially because of the training that goes alongside any restrictions that are put in place. That takes a lot of time, and in Be It One, we pride ourselves on having an industry-leading training program that it's 12 weeks before you're allowed to pour a drink in a Be It One. It's a high-level training for the bartenders. We're having to recruit a lot at the moment, and that date of the 21st has an impact on that. It touches all elements of how you operate the business. So we're ready for the 21st. I think if we keep bunny hopping through and not getting to that point, it just gets harder. So I've got everything crossed.
Just to stick with you for a moment, Sarah, you mentioned there your training program. Obviously, we've heard a lot in recent weeks about the staffing crisis that's affecting restaurants. Could you speak a bit about your experiences? Be It One having difficulty sourcing people, or are you hearing from colleagues in the industry that there is a definite shortage of talent?
Yeah, there is. I think it's been a really uncertain time for everybody, and as grateful as we are for the support that we received during furlough, etc., there's a lot of people that weren't able to benefit from that, and that's forced people into other industries, and so we have seen quite the drop off. We're also trying to recruit at a time when we don't know if we'll be open. I think that the day when we know on Monday, and hopefully we're flying the flag of we're opening on the 21st, then I think we'll get more people applying for the jobs. But it's a risk to apply for a role that you don't know whether it's going to come into fruition in a week's time, 3 weeks' time, or 3 months' time. And so it has been a real challenge, because what we do is about people. Our atmosphere is set by our teams. The engagement you have with your guests is set by the teams. It's so important, and that takes time. And so we've been recruiting now for the last 3 months to make sure that we're ready to go. But we're still recruiting now, as I think everybody is. We're all. And you see lots of messages on Facebook saying, "Please be patient with us. If you're going out for a drink, please understand. We've only just come back, and lots of these guys, they won't have worked in a nightclub for almost 16 months by the time we get there. We're gonna need a little bit of time to settle back into it. So recruitment's a key challenge across the whole industry.
I think this is so crucial to our economic recovery as we emerge from lockdown, because we know it's not going to be possible without the chefs, without the bar staff, without those other key roles that are absolutely at the heart of the hospitality industry. And we've had this double whammy of the pandemic and new visa rules that make it harder to recruit workers with the necessary skills. So, hospitality venues really now need our help to make it easier for them to recruit the staff they need, both from here in the UK and overseas. And that's why the mayor and I are really urging ministers to review those changes to visa rules, to give cities like London the devolved powers to fill those vacancies in sectors where we have these shortages.
Yeah, I think it's a worthy campaign as well, because so much of the hospitality staff in the country is made up of people from across the EU. That's always been one of the great joys of London, is that mix of people. Just to slightly change tack, we've spoken obviously about the staffing crisis, and we've also talking about the fact that nightclubs have been forgotten, and people are going to have to relearn that, and that people have been out of work for so long that they're going to have this period of adjustment. I just wondered, as sort of a final point, whether you could sort of comment on any long-term impacts that you think this last 15 months will have on the sector, whether it's more online things happening, or if you think that there will just be a change in the way that operators do things, or the way that people approach heading out. I don't know if you think that things will get back to normal and quickly, or whether you think that actually there will have been a fundamental shift, and if so, in what direction? Maybe I could start with you, Amy, on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I am concerned that some spaces won't be able to reopen. but I'm confident that we'll be able to get out again. And obviously the vaccine is the light at the end of the tunnel for that. I think
Hmm.
some communities and demographics have been hardest hit by these
Hmm.
nightlife closures. A particular example close to my heart are London's LGBTQ plus venues.
Hmm.
They're central to life for so many Londoners, crucial
Yeah,
role
absolutely.
in offering those safer places and support network to the community. We
Hmm.
had lost 62% of our LGBTQ plus venues in the space of a
Hmm.
decade, 2006 to 2016. But after a lot
Gosh.
of hard work from Sadiq and myself, we've stabilized that. And then the
Hmm.
pandemic hit. And you
Yeah.
can see how an already quite fragile sector that we're really suffering from rent rises and rates
Hmm.
rises and threats of development, it has just intensified. So we need to make sure that London's vibrant LGBTQ plus scene can offer that world-class entertainment, that music, that atmosphere, that the reason why everybody loves coming to London. It's one of those
Yeah.
things that just makes London London, and we have to make sure that we keep that close to our heart and protect it and make sure that it can start up again as soon as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to live in a London where there's no glory, for example. But such a good pub. Sarah, sort of same question to you. Do you think that there's been huge changes that will last, or do you think that things will go back to normal? And kind of just to touch on Amy's point there, are there particular sectors that you think are a risk and that we really need to rally round and support?
So I think there will be a period of adjustment. I think, as Amy says, we've seen, we've lost a lot of sites, in particular, independent businesses that haven't got the umbrella of a larger company to support them when something like this happens. That's been a shame. We've also seen some new businesses popping up, and that's exciting. We've seen a
Hmm.
real shift in the behaviours of the guests in terms of bookings. Everyone
Hmm.
wants to book. There's a definite fear of not getting in. If I don't book, I
Hmm.
can't get in because obviously we're on restricted space. And I think that'll be interesting for our industry going forward, because if that remains, that's a positive for us actually, because that helps us deliver the operation even more. I think
Yeah.
that overall, everything that's happened and the awareness that's being raised around the hospitality industry by the media and everyone that's supporting it could be a real positive for us, and it could drive some positive change, in particular around pay rates and how
Hmm.
people view the industry, and being able to demonstrate what a fantastic career the hospitality industry is, and it's so diverse and it's so exciting. And this may be a platform that we can maybe get some positivity out of. And I think where we may struggle is daytime drinking has definitely become a bigger thing in the last 12
Hmm.
months, especially when the dreaded curfew was in.
Yeah.
And it would be interesting to see what the demand, if the demand for that stays, and maybe we won't have as much, 3, 4 a.m., but we might have
Hmm.
more 3 p.m. So that I think will be interesting to see how that plays out.
I just wanted to jump in on that skills thing. And I think that, this going forward is going to be so incredibly important. I know I said it before, but I will say again, because we know we need more Londoners to take up careers in hospitality. And
Hmm.
the mayor's pledged more money for the Skills Academy to help
Hmm.
upskill and provide recruitment, ongoing, networking opportunities, high quality training, mentoring, and other support and building partnerships for people who want to get into hospitality. For too long, it
Hmm.
was seen as a stepping stone kind of
Hmm.
job. And actually, it is a hugely skilled and desirable work environment. And we really need
Yeah.
to get that message across so that
Hmm.
we're fully prepared for our economic recovery.
I think that's kind of, although that's such a pertinent point, it's also quite a sort of uplifting point, actually, just to remind people that, we've seen so much how much we've missed hospitality, and you realise sort of how valuable those people are to our lives. And I think that should hopefully remind people of what a valuable career it can be. It can be very rewarding. And it's a career where, as someone on the fringes of it who meets all these people all the time, you see, it sounds so corny, so I apologize, but there is a real sort of family sense among people, because everyone's in this together, and that this has come out this year, that real sense that people are pulling all the stops out for each other. And I think it's been so amazing to see people come back, recover, find out what they love about their own industry as well. And I think that's probably going to mean that for us, when we all go out, we're going to have a better experience as well.
Not just Londoners, but also people
Yeah.
from around the country. You know, we've got an opportunity here to welcome people back to our city, you know, without the queues. It's the first time probably ever in the history of London that we haven't had so many international visitors. We love them and we need them and we want them back. But at the moment, you know, it's why we've launched Let's Do London, you know, the biggest campaign, domestic tourism campaign, to say to the rest of the UK, hey, we're here. You know, you can see London without the queues. You can enjoy it in a bit more of a relaxed way. Things are safe. Things are open. We're here for you. We want you in our city. We love you. So please come back. Or make it your first trip. You've not been before.
Yeah, you know, there's a surprising number of people who've never been to London. I was reading a stat about it just last week. I don't want to get the stat wrong, but I was shocked. And actually, as you say, there's so much to love about London. I was going to say I could chat to you both about this on, and it's been really, really amazing to have your insights. Sarah, I wondered, did you have any final remarks, anything else you wanted to add just before we sign off?
Just that let's all keep our fingers crossed for the next couple of weeks, and we can get there.
We can get there. That is the message. We can get there. Amy, Sarah, thank you both so much for your time and for such an amazing insight into the industry as well. And I think, you know, as you both said, it's been a really tough year, but I think there are some sort of light on the horizon that we can look forward to. So thank you again. And just a final thing, just to say thank you for watching, for tuning in, and thank you to our sponsor, Be@One. Take care. Goodbye.